Hello and welcome to MFS in the Hub. I'm here with KC Vlad to the Bone Scheinfeld. I'm Ross the Boss. We're here to talk waiver wire week 16, KC Scheinfeld. If you didn't know that, which you actually told me, which I'll admit to the audience. KC, how are you today? I don't think the Giants are going to another game. I think they're
I hope
done
not.
here.
At this point, I just want him to have the number one pick.
Yeah. Let's welcome Cherie Sanders to New York.
Shador Sanders. Yeah, I
Shador
know.
Sanders.
Yeah, it was another brutal weekend of football. I mean, we lost 2 star running backs this weekend.
Let's talk about injury. That's a good. We'll start injuries first. Tell me your biggest losses of the weekend. Go.
Well, the 2 biggest are David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions, who has been like one of the best created the best running back tandem in football with him and Jahmyr Gibbs. Was it a torn MCL or just an injured MCL? Do you know?
Torn. I sent it to you yesterday.
So his season's over.
Yeah.
Who knows if he'll be ready in time for next season? They won't know until they do the surgery, probably. And, for those of us who are still alive in some of our playoff games, we're looking at the semifinals this week. You got the semifinals and the finals usually in 16 and 17. So David Montgomery was your RB1, or if you're super lucky, your RB2, but still he's a plug and play starter. Losing him going into the semis is huge. The other guy is of course, Alvin Kamara with a groin injury down there in New Orleans, another RB1, RB2 who you've been relying on week in and week out. So those were to me the 2 biggest injuries. Well, good afternoon, Albert. It's nice to see you, bud.
Let me just tell the audience a few more injuries. Patrick Mahomes, high ankle sprain. I don't think he'll play this week. I think so. I think we'll see Winky, right? He's the backup in Kansas City.
Yes.
Even though, I would. This is what I would do if I had Mahomes on any of my teams, just for spite, Casey. I would drop him today. How about that? Just drop him.
Wow,
I love it. So Mahomes useless. Again, another guy
in redraft leagues, folks. He's not talking about dynasty.
No, of course not fantasy. Of course not dynasty. The court, we know that. Moron. Come on. So Mahomes, big one. Nick Chubb, broken foot. Casey Scheinfeld.
Yeah.
Which you are strategizing like crazy, and you made somebody the cover guy because of the broken footed Chubb. Tell me why.
Because Jerome Ford could be the guy who carries you through at least this next week, and gets you, if you can get him off the waiver wires, if he's available. I think he's available in almost 60% of leagues. He's going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who, as you know better than anybody, Ross, have been kind of like a revolving door. They have not done the best job of stopping runners this season, and going into the Cleveland Cincinnati rivalry, it's going to be a slugfest. They're going to be running probably DTR out there, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, probably a quarterback.
That's who I think starting. They benched
Jameis.
Guy Winston.
Yeah, and so I think Jerome Ford's going to probably get 20 plus touches, and against that Cincinnati defense, that could be huge if you can get him off your waiver wires. I think if I had any money left in my fab budget, it's all going on him.
I don't blame you. I think that Robinson, UCLA graduate, will be the starter this week. I see the Bengals scoring more points. That's all they do is score over 30 points every game. That's like you can write that in stone. Every game, 30 points, and their defense gives up over 30 points. So if you're a betting man, over. Casey, who else waiver wire wise? I want to make this quick today because we have, it's as you said, we're deep in the playoffs, and it's not going to be that hard to get waiver wire guys this week because a lot of teams are not in the playoffs. It's down to 4 in most leagues, I would say. Who are your favorite? You said you talked about Jerome Ford. You talked about Kamara being hurt. Who's taking Kamara's place?
I like Kendre Miller. That's who most likely is going to take the place of Alvin Kamara. The problem is he's going up against the Green Bay Packers on Monday night, and that is a really, really difficult matchup for him. So I don't like him necessarily for week 16, but volume is still king. So I certainly would take a chance on him. Tyjae Spears is another one if we're just looking at running backs for he's the number 2 there in Tennessee, but he gets plenty of love and is doing a lot with it. At wide
he had
receiver,
wait, go back to Spears. I mean, he had 6 catches, Casey,
yeah,
87 yards and a touchdown for a horrible Tennessee team.
he was
Um,
RB3 on the week. He also
and
ran in a score, even though he had just 5 yards rushing.
And your boy, who you had high hopes for beginning of the season, Will Mayonnaise Levis,
Yeah, he's
benched
terrible.
this week, Casey. He's benched, so don't start Levis.
I gotta own it.
Don't start. Who was it? Mason. Who's their?
I don't even know.
Mason, right? Is it Mason?
Rudolph? Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, Rudolph Mason. Yeah, or Mason Rudolph. 2 first names. Who has that? Casey, who else on your waiver wire sheet? I have a question. I want to know if it's something that you're picking up or you're just blowing it off. But we always talk about tight ends. And I noticed a guy with a lot of targets last week for Jacksonville. I'm like, who is this guy?
Brenton Strange, Penn State, baby.
And I wish I could have the Doors music playing when I say his name. When You're Strange, you know what I mean? You know the song, Casey.
Yeah.
You're a big Doors guy. You and Jim Morrison used to go out.
We go way back.
Right? Yeah, we used to. I remember. I remember you on Sunset Boulevard. We all know
you
the
bailing
stories.
Me out of prison. Yep. All that stuff.
So Brenton Strange, is he somebody that you would consider starting next week or playing?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Evan Engram is hurt, so he's the number 1 tight end there. Mac Jones is quarterback. He got 12 targets last week, and they're going against the Raiders, which has been the worst, if not the worst, among the worst at stopping tight ends. If you need a tight end, Brenton Strange is a great ad. He's available in 98% of leagues. And so, yeah.
Only 98? That's I doubt he. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I looked at it and I saw Brenton Strange, like, for tight ends last week. He was second only to Smith for Miami, who was number 1 last week for tight ends. I mean, who would think like Brenton Strange would be somebody you pick up for playoffs? I mean, it's amazing the revolving door when it comes to tight ends. I mean, who are these starts, Strange or Kelsey? Seriously.
Wow. Kansas City is going against. Let me find it here. The Texans at home on Saturday afternoon.
I love those Saturday games, don't you?
There's
I love
2
when they
Saturday games this week.
I love it.
I would, I'd probably still go with, well, it depends who's quarterback for the Chiefs. If Mahomes isn't playing, then I want Brenton Strange.
Interesting. Mahomes isn't play. If Mahomes doesn't play, I like that. Casey,
the chemistry is there with Mahomes. So
you brought up, he's playing great football, and this team's beaten the Eagles. They also beat the Lions, I believe, this season. Is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And
oh my, yeah, Jalen McMillan.
No one talks about him. You and I love Baker Mayfield. We talk about him all the time. How the guy just comes prepared and just wings the ball, and he wants receiving touchdowns. That's what he wants. And Evans, your boy Evans, Texas A&M grad, he had 2 touchdowns last week, and he really wants to get that 1,000 yards. I mean, he had 140 last week. He has to average like 120 yards a game to get 1,000 yards.
It'd be amazing if he gets to the 1,000-yard mark.
I mean, we're all rooting for him. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, you can say it right now. I mean,
seems like a genuinely decent dude. So
send him to Canton. I mean, that guy, unbelievable catches. He made some great catches. I saw some of them. So the reason I brought up Tampa Bay is you brought up Jalen McMillan. Is he still somebody on your radar? I mean, radar?
Oh, yeah.
He is available.
Well, yeah, and you have to remember, he has 18 plus fantasy points in the past 2 games, 3 touchdowns during there. He was targeted 13 times in those 2 games, so 6 and 7. And he has the Cowboys coming up. And he's the clear number 2 option right now for Baker Mayfield. And the Cowboys, despite Cooper Rush not being a name like Dak Prescott, have been putting up some points. So, and Tampa Bay has shown they're not going to stop throwing the ball just because they're winning a game. They're just going to keep throwing. And McMillan is that kind of slot guy who just is shifty and gets open and can make moves after the catch. He's lightning fast. So yeah, he was my number 2 wide receiver this week. if I'm looking at my rankings here.
I want to do a couple of the waiver wire pickups. I want to ask who else you like, and then we'll get into the games coming up, and we'll talk about players that I didn't like Purdy last week, and look, he laid an egg. You know what I mean? I mean, there's players that I want to tell our audience, you know what? If you're in the playoffs, of course you want to win, and some players look great on paper, but on fantasy, it's not worth it. So I want to talk a little bit about that before we leave. Casey, who else is on your list when it comes to
wide receiver? A wide receiver I love, and he caught 2 touchdowns last week, is Romeo Doubs. He's still only 41%, 29% owned. Now he's got good, and they're going against the Saints. Let's be honest, that's a good matchup. It's Monday night. That's the problem. You have to wait until Monday night to see him play. But Romeo Doubs, to me, is he and Jalen McMillan are my 2 top pickups. Somebody could argue Quentin Johnston, because he had 10 targets again and has 5 touchdowns in the last 7 games.
Casey, so many drop balls with him.
I know.
It's so frustrating to watch him play. I can't do it.
But I'm going to name now, for my last waiver wire pickup, I'm going to name maybe my least favorite person in the NFL, because he puts himself out there and is not all that. I just don't.
Favorite. I want to hear this. Who is it?
Aaron Rodgers in New York for the Jets.
Oh, you said Green Bay. I loved it.
I nearly said it. He quietly has put up.
I enjoy Aaron Rodgers because I don't take him seriously, but keep going.
Last week, 289 and 3 touchdowns. The week before that, he had a good game. This schedule this week, they are going up against the Rams at home, so they could have to throw the ball a lot. You could do worse than Aaron Rodgers, especially if you're sitting there with Patrick Mahomes and you're not sure he's going to play, or you're dealing with Geno Smith. Geno Smith got hurt. I don't think he's going to play this week.
No, it's
Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin. He's putting it together.
I like Aaron Rodgers. I think that he wants to prove that he still has it, and the Jets aren't going anywhere, so they're going to let him throw. The Jets have nothing to lose. In 4th down and 5, they're going for it. You know what I mean? They're not going to be like punting the ball too much in that game against the Lambs. And the Lambs defense, I know they're healthy, but they're not the greatest defensive team in the world. Look what Buffalo did to them. I know the Lambs won, but doesn't matter. They gave up 40 points. So, yes, I agree with you. I like Aaron Rodgers. That's why I want to talk about the games. Let's talk about the games. One more pickup. I like Bateman for Baltimore. I think he's getting the ball a lot more. He's under 60%. I enjoy him a lot. He's somebody that if you need a receiver this week, there's no bye weeks, but if somebody got hurt or your receiver's not playing well, Bateman, I think, is going to have another touchdown this week also, so it's a good pickup. Thursday, we talked about a little bit. Denver is at the Chargers. I'm afraid of Mix. I won't start Mix if I have him this week. I think he's not going to do that great. Watch, he has 4 touchdowns. I think that game's going to be low scoring. Herbert's kind of injured also, and I hate his receiving core, and his number 1 running back is hurt. So I'm staying away from that game on all the fantasy aspects. If I had Sutton, I might start Sutton, but that's maybe it. Casey, we're talking playoffs, so I'm not fooling around here, Casey.
No, you're not.
Casey, anybody else you like from that game? You have to be very, very
the Broncos. Really it's a Thursday night game, which always scares me because I don't know if they simplify the game plan and they're not going to run as much. They're not going to run a full playbook. I don't know, but the Broncos secondary is banged up. There's a couple injuries back there, so I think. Yeah. I love Ladd McConkey. I know you don't like that wide receiving core, but this kid just seems to be able to find open spots on the field all the time.
I feel like he's like one hit away from being out of, he's always getting kind of banged up and hurt during the game. So it just scares me.
That was Wes Welker too, who ended up being one of the most dominant slot receivers. Because
why? Because they're throwing the ball in the middle, and these safeties are as big as linebackers, and they're hitting these little white kids really hard, and these white kids go down and they can't get up.
Yeah,
these guys hit hard.
Yeah, I agree, but I agree with you that I see it as a fairly low scoring game, and I don't love it. I might like the kickers in this game if you're in a league with kickers, but that would be it.
I
Now
like.
it's in Los Angeles, so the weather shouldn't be a factor.
I want to say his name because it's one of my favorite names to say. It's
Barty
a
McManus.
nickname. It's Dicker the Kicker, we call him here in
Ah,
LA, Casey. His last name is Dicker, and we call him the Kicker. And we always say that together. Kicker the Dicker. Well,
well,
Kicker, whatever.
I like it.
But he is money. He's one of the better
You know,
kickers this year. So is Boswell from Pittsburgh.
before we go on, I just thought of this interesting stat, and we're not condoning betting here, by the way. So before I
Okay.
say this, FanDuel, I read somewhere, I heard somewhere, FanDuel at the start of the season had the over-under on David Montgomery's season-long rushing prop at 775 and a half yards.
And what's it?
He got injured at 775 yards.
So you missed it by half a yard.
So if you bet the over, it was because he got hurt, you missed it by half a yard.
Can he come in for one play?
It just fall forward.
Yeah, just like
I just thought that was amazing.
Get a yard. Let's talk Saturday night. You talked about it.
Well, Saturday day
Houston,
game is Texans Chiefs.
It's 10 a.m. our time, 1 p.m. your time.
Yeah.
Houston is at the Chiefs. I'll just, again, CJ Stroud is not the same player he was last year. He's not putting up the yards like he's doing. Something's wrong with that. Something's wrong with him. That's all I got to say. I'm staying away. Nico Collins, of course, I start.
Nico Collins is the only one to me who's
Mixon. I heard is banged up. I heard he hurt his ankle.
Well, the Chiefs' run defense is really good. I mean,
it is good, but I still start Mixon as much as I don't like him.
Because he's your wide receiver. He's your running back too. You probably don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
If Mahomes isn't playing, I'm staying away from everybody. If Mahomes is playing,
that's what I like to hear.
I'll probably run out Kelsey and DeAndre Hopkins.
I guess. These guys
that might be it.
Yeah, I'm not jumping up and down about those.
I don't think I haven't. I mean, I have him on a fantasy team, and I haven't been able to play him because he hasn't been doing that well. But I haven't specifically looked at his stats. Has Pacheco done anything?
He's getting the ball more, but his average of carries. I just feel like, his yards per carry is not that great. I don't think he scored last week either. He's not. Again, Kansas City's offense isn't 100%. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, Kansas City, 2-time Super Bowl champions." I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm not starting anybody from that team. I think offensively they play these close games in the low 20s, and they're scoring touchdowns like weird ways, like Noah Gray. If you want to start Noah Gray, go ahead, but I won't. Pittsburgh, this is a great game. I wish I could go to this game. Pittsburgh is at Baltimore. Pittsburgh's DBs are banged up. Pittsburgh's best receiver, your guy, is
Pickens.
What's it? Yeah, Pickens. He's hurt. I don't know if he's playing this week because when he starts for Pittsburgh, KC, their offense is in the top 10. When he doesn't start,
Russell Wilson's game to a T.
Right, but when he doesn't start, they're in the bottom third, Pittsburgh. So you got to see if Pickens is playing. If he's not playing, I think Najee Harris is the one I would start. Maybe Fairmouth. Fairmouth had a touchdown last week. But I just think Pittsburgh's offense is so different without Pickens, and TJ Watt is banged up also, which could hurt the Pittsburgh defense. And getting to that, Baltimore, Henry, Lamar, of course, right? Those two. Yeah. Thoughts on Flowers or Bateman or Andrews, Casey?
Pittsburgh secondary is banged up at that pass rush. TJ Watt and those guys are legit. I would probably, I'd probably run Zay Flowers out there if I had to as a flex, maybe wide receiver 3. I don't feel that way about Bateman or the tight ends this week. Now watch, I could be wrong. Lamar could have 5 touchdown passes, but
no, but you have to be skeptical. You can't be like lackadaisical with this.
But these rivalry games. These rivalry games tend to be slugfests, and I just think it's going to be Derrick Henry against, the running backs, Najee Harris,
and Warren, and the rest of the little.
And Lamar's going to run some too, I think.
He'll have 10 carries. Yeah, I mean, he'll run the ball. It's an important game. When it's an important game like this against Pittsburgh, Lamar will run. Right. He saves himself for these type of games. He doesn't run against bad teams. He runs against good teams. So that's a little hint. So the other big game we're moving to Sunday now is the Bengals, who are almost mathematical out of it, but we have a chance.
So you're telling me there's
Or
a
at home,
chance?
yeah, I have a chance. Or at home against Cleveland. Cleveland, let's be quick. Cleveland, I wouldn't start anybody. Oh, do we agree?
No, I wouldn't start anybody. Well,
Nobody.
Jerome
Okay, so
Ford. I'm starting Jerome Ford. If I
you
pick
would.
him up,
Okay.
I'm starting him. I think
I
he's
guess
gonna.
Bengals weak
I
defense.
yeah, I see 80 to 90 yards and a score out of him.
Okay, so you start him. Bengals wise, you got to keep riding Jamar Chase.
Burrow and Chase, you got to put out there. They're the two best at their
Higgins is
positions.
banged up. I don't know if he's playing. And somebody else that we don't really talk about is Chase Brown. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been on fire the past 3 weeks with points in fantasy.
Do you think he's the number one next year too? Do you think he's done enough to earn that job, or are they going
They're
to
saying the Bengals might take what's that kid from Boise State?
Ashton Junty? Ashton
Might take
Junty, maybe?
Genty. They were like, but Chase Brown has been playing so well, and I don't know if Genty's going to be available. I think he'll be a top 5 pick. I hope they keep Chase Brown. He's proven that he's a number 1 back. So I hope I'm right. But there's so many stupid people that work for the Bengals that I can't say I'll be right. Casey, anybody else from the Cincinnati? I mean, Burrow, you start for sure. Burrow's my number
Burrow
1
and
guy.
Chase are definites.
I mean, Burrow is my number 1
And Chase
running
Brown.
back. I mean,
Burrow,
is the
Chase,
number
and
1
Brown. I'm
quarterback.
starting all 3 of them.
Okay, so
And
okay,
then
I like
Jerome
that.
Ford, I'm going to start in.
Yeah,
Although
let's stay away.
I might look if Cedric Tillman is healthy. I heard today that he and DTR were high school teammates, so I could see them just trying to like relive the high school days of backyard football and throw up a few bombs that Tillman can catch, because we've seen how poorly Cincinnati
Oh,
DBs
I
can
know.
cover a wide receiver. And
Okay,
so
because you said that. Jerry
I might,
Jeudy, I would start. Jerry Jeudy, I start.
I mean, like some of those when I was watching which game was it? It didn't even look like the receivers were covered. I think it might have been the Pittsburgh game. It didn't even look like they had anybody on them.
No, they're horrible. They're the worst defense in the league. I've been saying that for the past 4 weeks. I'm starting Jerry Jeudy too. You just talked me into it. The Giants are talking about a horrible game. The Giants are at the Falcons.
I know. How bad is that?
There's a worse game coming up, which we'll talk about really quickly, because I'm not getting into it at all. Anybody on the Giants? I don't think the Giants will win another game. Anybody
No,
on
I'm
the
not
Falcons?
playing any. I'm playing Malik Neighbors just because he's going to get 12 targets regardless if he's the quarterback.
Yeah.
But outside of that, no, I'm not starting anybody. And on the Falcons, if anybody still thinks Kyle Pitts is a top 15 tight end, they're
top
nuts.
50. He's a top 50 tight end.
Right. I think you have to throw Bijan out there if you drafted him, and I think Drake London. But outside of that, I'm not playing anybody.
That's it. Okay, let's move on. Detroit, who was banged up, just not Montgomery.
Oh.
We're talking about their starting tackle got hurt. They're talking about 2 defensive players that starter hurt. They're an infirmary. I mean, they really are.
I know.
And because he has such a weak schedule the next 3 games, I think they'll still win the division. They play the Bears this week.
I think
Niners.
I think if you made it to the semifinals and you have Jahmyr Gibbs on your roster, you're going to win the championship. I just think
there you go.
Like this guy's going to be getting 150 to 200 yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns a game for the next 2 games.
If he doesn't get hurt. St. Brown.
Yep.
Jameson,
Jared Goff.
Jameson
Williams.
Goff.
Sam Laporta. Nobody on the Bears.
Okay,
I'm not
move
running
on.
a single Bear out there.
There's another great game. The Titans are at the Colts.
Oh, or how about the Cardinals and Panthers? There's some
anybody
really
on the
bad
Titans
teams.
take anybody at all taste the Titans maybe
Tajay Spears or Pollard. That would be it.
Yeah, Colts. Dude, did you see that play with Jonathan? Did you see that play Jonathan Taylor made? He was about to score a touchdown, and he just decided to drop the ball at the 1 inch
celebrated
line.
too early.
Idiot.
In a super flex, you got to run Anthony Richardson out there just because he's going to score at least 1 touchdown with his legs.
No, he looked good. And just throwing the ball well. I was watching some of it. It was good. Here's another boring game. Arizona at Carolina.
Ugh.
What do you do? I guess Connor for sure.
Yep. McBride, if he's healthy. I think you run Murray out there as your quarterback because he's still going against Carolina.
I know.
On Carolina, I'm probably looking at either Coker or Leggett if I can as a flex if I need him.
Stay away.
I'm not excited about any of it. Chuba Hubbard could have a good day.
Eagles are at Washington. It's a good game, actually. Eagles, AJ Brown,
I heard
Devontae
he's
Smith.
dinged up, but I'm not sure if I didn't see if he practiced today or not.
Well,
But yeah,
Wednesday's a big day.
you're running everybody out there if you can. Saquon, obviously, you're never benching him. Jalen Hurts, you're not benching him. I would run out the number 1 and 2 wide receivers if they're both healthy.
Yeah.
But that's
And
it.
then
And then on the
Washington,
Commanders,
Scary Terry, he was great last week, 2
Scary Harry
touchdowns.
Terry. Yep. Jaden Daniels and Brian
Daniels, I
Robinson.
start. There you go. Rams are at Jets.
I like a lot in this game, as weird as that sounds. I mean, I'm running all the skill positions out there. I think if I have Cup or Nakua, I'm running them out there. Matt Stafford, I think, could have a good game. Then you got Kyron Williams running the ball for you. That's
how about
not bad.
How about Brees
side,
Hall, your number 1 pick in some leagues last season?
I don't know if I'm going to
bench his ass.
I don't know. But yes to Aaron Rodgers, like we
and yes to Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams and even Garrett Wilson. So
yeah.
Oof.
Here's another the spread's 14 points on this one. The Patriots are at Buffalo minus 14. We're not talking gambling, we're just saying how big the spread is. So the Bills, I mean,
everybody.
The Patriots, I wouldn't start anybody in the Patriots.
You know, I was thinking about this, and if the weather's good and you're desperate, I think Drake May could be a sneaky good quarterback because the game script is going to require him to be really active. I'm not saying it's the one I want to rely on going into a championship, but if I'm in a super flex or I'm desperate, I have Mahomes.
If you don't have Josh Allen, you don't have Lamar Jackson, you don't have Joe Burrow, and you smoke enough marijuana and you drink enough vodka, yes, start May. I mean, I guess.
No, but I just think he could.
You're not going to win.
Good week. No, you're not.
Okay, Casey, this is the game I want you to watch.
Oh yes, here we go.
This is the game. I want you to sit in your beautiful
Mac
house in
Jones against Desmond Ridder.
This is the Jacksonville Jaguars in Las Vegas. And Casey, let's just make a side bet, not on the game, but the attendance. Now, everybody wanted football in Vegas, and they said, "Oh, we'll sell it every game." I don't see them having more than 20,000 or 10,000 at the game for this thing. I mean, first of all, it's very expensive to go to Raider games. The most expensive game of any NFL team.
They might have more than the Giants and Falcons do.
I mean, they'll give away a lot to their high rollers, I guess. I get it. But, Casey, who do you like in this game for fantasy? Jaguars? I'm trying to think.
There's one. Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. He's the only one I'd run out there because I trust him.
Trust him with Mac Jones. Okay.
And we talked about it. Brenton Strange.
When you're Strange.
Is a possibility.
When you're Strange, I like him too. He's getting a lot of talk. Raiders wise, Casey.
I mean,
God, they're a bad team. I wish I could say something positive.
We talked about was it Sincere? Was that his first name?
Yeah, he's out. He got hurt.
So then Amir Abdullah steps in and does pretty well. I guess he could have a day. But we saw but Desmond Ridder is not an NFL quarterback. Like that's all we saw.
He does like to run, so he'll get some rushing yards. But I'm not starting him, of course. So let's move on. 49ers are at Miami. 49ers season is done. They're in Miami. Their team is banged up, as we know. I'm not starting
Jerry Rice. Did you see the Jerry Rice statement? Because Deebo Samuel was complaining about his targets. And Jerry Rice said, "Hey, if you're going to demand the ball, you better catch it," because he had a couple really bad drops in the game.
That's funny.
Rice.
The 49ers, Casey, I'm not starting anybody. You can. I mean, Debo's not startable. So if you have Deebo Samuel, if I was
George Kittle,
I don't have him.
I'm starting George Kittle.
Okay, you start Kittle. That's fine. Deebo Samuel, I would drop. How about that? Drop Debo.
Almost. I like Juwan Jennings, but do you trust?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Jennings,
do you trust
they'll
Brock
be behind
right now?
I mean,
it's in Miami, so it's a good weather game.
The script is going to be this, Casey. Miami's going to take the lead, and the 49ers will give up on the run, and they'll just pass the ball.
Yep.
And Purdy will have at least 2 interceptions. So there you go. Miami side, you take Hill, Waddle's questionable. So
Waddle's questionable, so not him, but him and the tight end Jones.
Smith,
Smith,
Smith.
Jonnu Smith, and
Now,
Tyreek Hill,
really
and
quick,
Devon Achane. You're putting them out
I
there, and
was just
just
going
who
to
you're
say,
running out there.
don't start any of those running backs. Mostert's not. You start none of them. They're horrible.
Oh, I'd start Achane.
They're not doing anything. Look at their points, fantasy points. It's horrible. And this is a great Sunday night game. I know you'll be watching. Tampa Bay, who I do enjoy because I do like Baker.
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy watching it because it's fun football.
So Tampa versus Dallas. Tampa, you got to start Evans. I would be comfortable starting
McMillan.
I would start. Listen, I'm comfortable starting Mayfield.
Yep, I would throw Baker out there. On the Cowboys side, it's Dowdle and it's CeeDee Lamb, and if you're desperate, maybe Jake Ferguson.
And you're not taking my ESU Sun Devil running back,
Rachaad White. I like him, but it's such a crowded backfield with Bucky Irving and
he's been
Sean
a touchdown
Tucker.
if you look at his stats, touchdown every week.
I know.
Every week.
When Dan texted us over the weekend, I put him.
I said I agree.
I give him credit.
Okay, so we moved to December 23rd. Is that Festivus night? Is that the night we celebrate Festivus? I think it is.
I'm not sure.
I know you're big on Festivus. It's Monday Night Football in the frozen tundra of Green Bay, Wisconsin. We got the New Orleans Saints against the Green Bay Packers.
I am starting nobody for New Orleans. I think, we talk about defenses. If you can start Green Bay's defense this week, you're in good shape. I could see this being like them. If they get a field goal, I'll be impressed.
Now I like Reed and I like Love and I like
Josh Jacobs is to be a top play this week.
Josh Jacobs has been on fire lately. That offensive line's been just great. The only thing I don't like is it's a night game in Green Bay and it's going to be cold.
That's why I think Josh Jacobs could be.
And you're saying like, oh, they're used to it. You don't get used to that kind of weather. I have friends that played in the NFL and I asked them like, where is the most hateful place you hate to play football? He said, Ross, when you come out of that tunnel in Green Bay, it's a whole different cold. It's not like playing in New York. It's not like playing in Philadelphia. It's a whole different cold. And that Green Bay cold is just horrible. And if you're not used to it, like a team that plays in a dome in New Orleans, you're in trouble. You're in trouble right here in River City. And the spread is wow.
Man. Nice
spread. I just watched Sound of Music on Sunday on ABC. I just watched it. 13.5
rhymes
points.
With T and stands for pool.
13.5 points. I think Green Bay will cover that line. How about that?
I like I said, if they get anywhere close to double-digit points, New Orleans will have performed my expectations for them.
Do you feel comfortable starting Jordan Love this week?
I do.
Okay. Give me your top three quarterbacks this week. I'm just curious who you like. I'll give you mine. I can go first if you want.
Go ahead.
On top, I'm taking Burrow. I just think he's been spot on I just think he's been great. The second one, just because they're playing indoors and they're playing a horrible defense, is Baker Mayfield on national television. He likes to play on national television. And the third guy I like to start just because it's a rivalry game, and I think this guy will step it up for it, is Lamar Jackson. And I'll take him as my third quarterback. Okay. This is just for fantasy. This is points. Casey, tell me your top three quarterbacks.
I like your Baker call. I agree with that one. I think he's going to have a big game. I think Josh Allen. Because he also runs he runs 2 touchdowns in a game, and they're going against.
I'm just worried.
The lowly Patriots.
I'm worried about it's going to be like 21-0, and then they'll say, you know what? Let's just keep running ball with Cook. And, got to think script. I mean, do you think New England has the firepower to keep up with Buffalo? That's what I'm thinking.
No, I don't think they do. But I think with Cook and is it Davis? Is that the other running back? Ray Davis?
Yep.
They're not goal line guys. So if they don't get in from 6-7 yards out, I think it's going to be Josh Allen on QB.
No, he's been he's the MVP in my book. I mean, he's the MVP right now.
My third quarterback is
who is it?
Wow. It's
remember fantasy, not like don't go by name.
I know
you'll get killed if you go by name. You won't win.
I'm gonna throw a wrench. I'm gonna say it's Jaden Daniels.
Love it. No, listen,
The Eagles are playing really well right now, but it's in Washington. The Commanders are fighting for playoffs.
I
just
like
need
it.
them.
And Jaden really he had like over 50, 60 yards last week. He really was running and playing
The
his
other guy I
game.
could see being the top because of the David Montgomery injury is Jared Goff, where they start doing little short passes around the red zone instead of trying to run it in, because Montgomery tends to be there between the tackles.
Okay, let me just remind you about something, and the listeners, they're playing in Chicago, and they never play well outdoors.
No, I know.
And it's
Trust
going to
me,
be
that's why
cold.
I didn't put him in my top three, but
It's the
he would be my
mistake on
sleep.
the lake. It's going to be very cold
Cleveland's the
there.
mistake on the lake, not
I know, but
Chicago.
I like saying it about Chicago too. It's at Soldier Field. I know the difference.
The Windy City.
I know, city of broad shoulders. I know that. I know everything.
I know you
But
do.
it just
You
makes
have
me nervous that it's outside in Chicago. And again, I told you they're missing their starting tackle also, which is a huge deal when
Yep.
you're, huge deal. But again, Detroit, they'll be okay. And remember, they play in the NFC. They don't have to play Buffalo. They don't have to play Kansas City till the Super Bowl. So their big obstacle is going to be Philly. And I said it last week. I still think if Philly gets home field and you have to go through Philadelphia in the wintertime, that's a tough task. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah,
going to
very
be
much.
cold. Those fans are angry. And I don't want to be the team that travels to Philadelphia in January. Trust me, I don't want to be that team. So I hope Detroit has some gas. I hope they can maybe get the 1 seed, but we'll see what happens. But long story short, I think everything goes through Philly if everything goes to plan, but we'll see what happens.
All right, man.
Okay, so we'll see everybody Thursday. Dr. Dan Ratner is writing that book, folks, on fantasy football. It's going to be a doozy. He's talking to the commissioner as we speak of the NFL. He's doing all these great interviews. It's going to be a number one seller. I have a good feeling. So Casey, I'll see you 4:00 Eastern, 1:00 Pacific on Thursday.
Yes, where we'll get even more caught up on what's happening.
Well, the thing is, Wednesday we find out who's practicing and who's not. That's a big tell who's playing over the weekend. So I do have some question marks. So we'll see what happens. But thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss. That's KC Blood to the Bone Shinefold. We'll see everybody on